you're a young kid, you get into all sorts of sports, but my father had a huge passion. He loved football so much, so he tried to be a successful footballer in his younger days, but that obviously never happened, so he sort of passed on his passion to me. Funny enough, I used to prefer, when I was younger, I preferred basketball, but my father somehow got me to love football at some stage by bribing me, allowing me to drive the car in a car park before training. So, but then after a while, that's how my love story with football began. Well, I mean, it's one of those games where you find yourself playing at Wembley in front of nearly 100,000 people. It was a bit surreal, to be honest with you, especially my route to playing for Charlton and at Wembley at the time. So a year before that, I was a student playing amateur football in the UK, and then I just tried my luck, knocked on Charlton's door and had a good run in, became #1 goalkeeper at Charlton, and through some obviously winning games and being successful in the championship at the time, we ended up playing the playoff final at Wembley against Sunderland, and unfortunately for me, I managed to save the penalty, which took Charlton to promotion to the Premiership. I was quite fortunate to fulfill all my childhood dreams, and that was predominantly to become a professional football player, to play internationally for my country and so on. So I ticked all those boxes. For me, it was, what's next? You know, I've done the business, I've done the footballing career, everything that I've done up until that point was relatively, quite successful. Obviously dealing with my father's passing, getting used to being single again. So, that had a bit of an effect on me too. So I was a bit of a lost soul. I wasn't quite sure which direction I wanted to go in my life. More important, I didn't have a focus. So getting out of bed, what do I do now? So I had to reinvent myself. And obviously 2-3 years went by, nothing was happening. Dealing with certain things in my life, personal things in my life, I sort of chose to have a smile on my face rather than a negative face or a sad face, and by doing that I used to just be outdoors or substitute a day for night. So I was out constantly traveling, just having a good time. But if you would scratch the surface, obviously I wasn't in a good place at all. And then I began to see that I was going on this downward spiral, which I think if I didn't reinvent myself, I think I wouldn't have anything today, especially what I have here in Montenegro. When I think back, the key moment was looking at myself, and by looking at myself, I mean, phones at that time, obviously, people taking selfies, and I would remember a friend of mine would take a selfie, and I'm like, please take another photograph of me. I look absolutely horrendous. I don't look like this. So we take about 15, 20 shots. I still look the same. Then I asked him, I said, is this how I look? He goes, yeah. So it began from a vanity side of, vanity side first more than anything else. But internally, emotionally, I was going through a really bad time too. And purely by luck, I met this girl who happened to be at this table where I was sitting down having coffee, and she mentioned, detoxing. I said, what's detoxing? Then she went on to explain that you go off somewhere, or you just drink juices, you just cleanse your body. That will help with your mind, body, and soul, and so on. And I gave it a shot. So I went off. I did a 2-week detox. I just drank liquids for 2 weeks. Obviously, physically, you transform yourself. You shed a lot of weight. But more importantly, this fuzziness, this cloudiness that I had in my life at the time sort of just evaporated. And because I felt so incredibly fantastic, which I haven't probably felt for maybe 3 years, I just decided, well, maybe this is my calling. So then literally the next day after my detox had finished, I decided to sell my place in London, pack my bags, jump on my motorbike, come to Montenegro to this burnt down house, and to build my own detox center. So that was the initial idea. Yeah. Montenegro, I think, has the potential of becoming whatever it wishes to become. It has so much natural beauty, from one of the biggest fjords or biggest bays on the Mediterranean to one of the biggest lakes, the deepest canyon outside the Grand Canyon, which is the Tara Canyon. In such a small country, there's so much diversity, biodiversity, national parks and so on. So, if you choose to come here for the food and wine, it's a great place. If you choose to come here for the party scene, there's plenty of that. If you come and choose to visit Montenegro for the nature and beauty, it has all of that too. So I think it has potential to cater for any type of potential tourist attraction for people to come and enjoy in this country. The one thing I've never compromised in my life, I never compromised doing something that I don't like doing. So I always done things that I love doing, whether it was the love of, let's say, football, which came quite naturally for me when I was a younger kid. The business side of things, that was more curiosity. When I started doing this boutique hotel business, hospitality, that was rediscovering myself, finding something that I enjoy doing. So obviously being in the hospitality industry, you need to be good with people, you need to be a good host, and that's something that I've done all my life anyway. So when I was living in London, I used to host a lot of dinner parties, cocktail parties, so I've always enjoyed that. So I thought, well, if I can do something like that and make a living out of that, then I won't be compromising, I won't be doing something that I don't need to do. The first thing, you need to acknowledge that you're in a bad space, to come to terms with that. And I think the second thing that you need to do is take yourself out of that perspective, and even just by changing countries or changing locations, changing scenery, changing the people that you surround yourself with, and taking some time on yourself, you soon realize that if you're in a bad space, that particular space where you are at is not good for you. I've always, I lived in 4 different countries, so my solution to any, let's say, period where I was unhappy was by just changing locations, changing countries and starting over. And it's that uncertainty and that fear, if you could call that, that not knowing what to expect or going into the unknown is what gave me the thrill. And that's what gave me the motivation and the strength to change my life. Just go forward. I never go back. Even if I forget something, jump in the car, and if I forget something back at home, I never go back. I always go forward. Yeah. And having that mentality from the smallest little things to the greater things, just going forward, regardless of what the consequences may be, whether they're positive or negative, I think just going forward and being fearless is the way to go.